Welcome to Scandal Water, where the tea is hot and the conversation lively.
Your hosts, Candy
and Ashley,
will discuss a peculiar story somehow related to the entertainment industry. This podcast might not change the world, but it just might satisfy your thirst for an intriguing tale.
Oh, it's that time of day. Tune in and hear what the ladies say. It's time to bend your ear when the silver screen appears. Stories about the stage and screen and everything in between. So come on and join the fun. The curtain opens in 3, 2, 1. Stories and scandal water, it's where you need to be. Stories and scandal water, let's pour you a cup of tea.
Hi, Ashley.
Hi, Candy. I am super excited today. We have a,
I bet you are.
I'm not sure how to say it, but like a Gigantosaurus episode planned for you guys. And we have the special guest, Jack, and we are just going to hop right to this interview, if that's okay with you.
Can't wait.
Let's do it. Hello, Jack. Welcome to Scandal Water. We are very excited to have you back here to discuss Jurassic World Dominion. And for our friends who may not remember, Jack and his wife Emma were with us earlier in the year, and they have a podcast called Pod of Tea that's very, very wonderful. Actually, Emma does, and you are a frequent guest of hers, correct?
Yes. Yeah. She brings me on if she needs an extra person to bounce off of.
Yes. And I'm very excited about tonight because as we discovered during that interview that you are, not only are you another huge fan of Jurassic Park, but you have also worked on the film. In what capacity? What capacity did you work on?
So since 2014, I've been working on what's known as the viral marketing for the new movies. So we work in universe. Each time we've created a website that is set in the universe of Jurassic. So when you sit at your computer and you go on this website, you have to pretend you're in the universe accessing a website that they would have access to, all the characters and stuff. So all the information has to be like correct as much as possible. And it's just a fun sort of, for lack of a better term, gimmick for the fans to sit down and like, you know, you'd play a video game or you will go watch the movies or something. This is the internet version of that kind of thing. And so, yeah, that's the wheelhouse we play in. But because it's in universe, we have to work very closely with the director and the filmmakers and the canon. You're going to hear me say the word canon a lot because
So what does canon mean for people who may not know?
Okay, so I believe it's a biblical term, but it comes from like the idea that the actual story of Jurassic and the world building. And so like for one example, there was a video game. I'm going to go on a bit of a side tangent.
That's
here,
okay.
It'll come back around.
You're with friends.
There was a Jurassic Park video game come out in 2011 called Jurassic Park the Game.
Okay.
That was set during the same time period as the first film. And at the time, Universal Studios were saying that was canon with the movie. So fans could play it and be like, okay, we've got to really think that this takes place when we watch the films, we're thinking, oh, this is happening at the same time.
Okay.
Did they get everything right? No. And then Jurassic World came out and retconned it. So took it out of canon and it's not canon anymore. And that can happen a lot. Movies do this all the time as well. Even movies, a sequel come out and it retcons something from a previous movie, but it gets a bit complicated because they're still canon. So it's like
it's like SpiderMan, you know, the alternate universe where Gwen Stacy's his girlfriend in one and MJ is his girlfriend in another one. They're both kind of canon. But they're parallel
and it gets
stories.
confusing when things overlap and they contradict and stuff. But I just want to say this at the beginning of this interview so everyone knows this going forward. I work heavily in the Jurassic canon. I've been studying it for years. I'm not perfect at it like no one is. There's still things I'm learning about it, but it's just basically like the core storyline and the mythos behind the films you watch. So
how did you get this job with Jurassic World? You don't just walk into it.
Okay, do you want to hear the shorter version summed up or in a nutshell, or do you want to hear like the really interesting?
I want to hear the really interesting.
I'm pitching it. Okay, but it's interesting, but it's long-winded.
That's all right.
Okay, so I got my job at working on the Jurassic canon and with the films and everything because a friend of mine, or who wasn't at the time because I didn't even know him, broke his arm. That's how it all came about. So obviously I went and saw the first film at the cinema when I was 4 years old.
Too young, but that's okay.
4 years old, 1993. I'm watching the first film. My mind is blown. It's like I'm one of those people that when people say it's like their Star Wars. It was like, the film came out and just defined an entire generation.
That was for me. Me too. I was 13, but me too.
And it was at this little tiny cinema on the east coast of the UK, which, funny enough, last Saturday I took my granddad to go, who's just turned 80, to go see the new one, to bring it full circle.
Yeah.
And I hadn't been in that cinema for years, and it smelt the same, it looked the same. They had not changed it since.
So you went to the same cinema to see this last one that you did the first one. So did I. I went to the one, and I told Brian, I was like, I went to see the original in this cinema. Okay, keep going.
Oh, that's awesome. Been a fan since I was 4 years old. Grew up, played with all the toys. But then when Jurassic Park 3 came out in 2001, that was the first one I came out of the cinema. I was a bit disappointed with it. I was like, yeah, I like it, but it wasn't really my cup of tea. And then Jurassic took a big hiatus for 14 years.
Right.
Build up to Jurassic World at the time. It was called Jurassic Park 4. They announced a guy called Colin Trevorrow, who was going to be the director of the new film. There'd been so much news over the years, and there was a point where we all thought it was going to not happen. But they announced this new director. And then I was at the time living in London, and I was like, do you know what? This podcast thing was becoming a thing. So I was like, I'm going to listen to podcasts when I'm going to work. And I was like, I wonder if anyone's done any Jurassic Park podcasts. So I look up Jurassic Park podcast, and the first one I come across is one called Jurassic Cast. And it was run by a guy called Sam Phillips. And he started that podcast when he broke his arm and he was recovering, and he just put Jurassic Park on. He hadn't watched it in years himself. He was a fan just like me when he was a kid, but he took that break. He watched and he went, oh, you know what? I've got some things to say about this. And so he just started it just, on a whim. Around that time, I went home and from London to visit my mum. And she had gotten all my old toys, everything out of the attic, and was like, what do you want to do with this stuff? And I was like, well, I'm glad you kept it. Looking safe. And there was a lot there. There was so much stuff. And I got it all out and I spread it across my room, and I made a video for YouTube because I thought it'd be quite interesting to go down the nostalgia rabbit hole. And I recorded a video called My Jurassic Park Collection, which is still on YouTube to this day. It got quite popular because I was talking about why this action figure's missing an arm, or why this one's missing his face, or this dinosaur's painted a different color, and people seem to love it. One of the people who watched that video was Sam, who ran Jurassic Cast. So I'm listening to his podcast and I get an email off him, and he's like, Mr. Jack Evans, he gets my names wrong. He's like, Mr. Jack Evans, do you mind coming on the podcast? I want to talk about your collection.
Yeah.
So I get this email, and they announced the director at the same time. And I'm working at a bar in London, and we have a lock-in, and it's about 4 a.m, and I've had a few too many drinks. And I thought, you know what? Just for a laugh, I'm just going to send a tweet to the director saying, do you want to come on the podcast with us? For a laugh. And I'll say, no spoilers. You can come on, just give us your relationship to this franchise, to the fans directly.
You hadn't even been on the podcast yet?
No, I hadn't been on the podcast yet.
I just tweeted it.
So yeah, I just did it for a laugh. But he said yes. So he DM'd me and was like, yes, I'll come on the podcast. And bear in mind, he'd never done any interviews with magazines, TV, nothing after being announced. So the first people he came to
was you.
Coming into this franchise, and he's a fan himself, the director.
Yeah.
He was like, I need to talk to the fans. So he came to us. Fortunately, I was just at the right place, right time, right amount of drinks to have the confidence to do it.
Yes.
So then I messaged Sam, who runs Jurassic Cast, and I said, I'm coming on your podcast, but I'm bringing the director with me of the new film. And he's like, no, you're not. And I was like, yes, I showed him. And then so we had Colin on. We had the interview. It did very well. Obviously, it was the first exclusive interview done about Jurassic, so it made a lot of waves. Then another fan in Australia called Tim Glover was listening to the podcast because we did it for Jurassic Cast, and then he saw my artwork and stuff I did online. He reached out to me. We started working together on some little fan projects. And then in Jurassic World, the movie, if you remember, there's a character called Simon Masrani. He's the guy who runs the park.
Yes.
Okay. So in an early script of Jurassic Park 4, he was known as Patel. He had a different name. That name leaked out online, and Tim and I were just working together at the same time. Tim was into web design, So he goes, do you want to make a website where we just do like the Patel Corporation's website for a laugh? Like we've got his name, we can just
design
design it. And at the time, I didn't like the idea of an open theme park. I thought, they've done that. Well, they didn't do it. It's like didn't open, but I didn't know how it worked. So I used this opportunity with Tim. I was like, yeah, actually, I can write the backstory and sell that idea to myself, because I'll come up with the ideas that I like.
Yeah.
We make this website, we release it, and some fans cotton onto it and start spreading it around. And they come to us going, did you work on this? I'm like, no. I'm like keeping the secret, keeping it like in universe. No, I don't know who made this website. It looks like a legit thing. And then eventually IGN caught it and the director saw it.
Again, and he already knew who you were.
Well, he didn't know who was behind the website until they found out. And then he was like, oh, I know this guy.
Yeah.
And then we got an email in April of 2014 from Universal reaching out to us to be like, do you want to work on the actual official campaign? Now, at the time, it was just me, Tim, and a guy called Manuel, who's a digital animator from Spain. We didn't know him until he was brought onto Jurassic this time. And that we worked on Jurassic World's marketing. It was called MasraniGlobal.com. And then they gave us all the official access. I got to read the script, do all that sort of stuff.
Oh, that's amazing.
We built the website out. That did really well. And then for Fallen Kingdoms marketing, when we're doing the Dinosaur Protection Group website,
yes,
I brought Sam from Jurassic Cast into the fray. Like I just went like, you started, like he couldn't come in because of contracts and legal stuff at the first one, but I brought him in for the next two campaigns, and he now works for our company. So
that's so cool,
because he broke his arm and did a podcast.
That is so cool.
I did my collection video. Yeah, that's right place, right time. That's how we did it. And it's a lot of luck, but we did a lot of research. That's the long-winded version, but that's how we got to where we are today. And now what we've done with the new one, Dino Tracker, I still can't believe we've got to do what we got to do for that one. So
what is that? I don't know what that is.
Okay, so for the new movie, obviously dinosaurs have been sold globally. A majority of them have escaped into North America.
Yeah.
The DNA and embryos have been sold, all that sort of stuff, and new clones are popping up. So if you go to the website, and your listeners go to the website dinotracker.com. It's like an interactive global website where fake people, send in their sightings of dinosaurs around the world. And you've got, so we were tasked with making phone clips of people seeing dinosaurs. So the ILM who make the dinosaurs we sent a wish list of dinosaurs we wanted to use. They pretty much sent them every single one that we asked for, which was amazing. And some of the old ones as well from previous films.
Yeah.
We made videos of like people spotting a triceratops in the middle of the road, and they get their phone out and they're like, oh my God, and it walks across the road. So we had to animate it, and I did the sound, and we filmed them all ourselves.
So is that like at the top of the movie where they have the cell phone interactions in the top of this film?
Had COVID not been a thing, I think we would have probably had some stuff in there, but because of COVID, things got messed up. I mean, we had set visits and everything to go to. COVID messed everyone up.
Oh, you didn't get to go, or you did?
No. We went to Fallen Kingdoms set when that was happening, but not the new one. We're still really thankful for what we got to do. We're still working on some stuff right now to do with it, because it's a continuing campaign. And and we've even got to write scripts for like the cast members, because the Dino Tracker website has a link to a Twitter account, which is the Dino Tracker Twitter, like in-universe Twitter. And on there, we've got videos of like Jeff Goldblum, Sam Neill, Laura Dern saying lines that we wrote. And then they've got clips that we've made of dinosaurs. So we've gone from humble fans back in the day who thought we'd never do this, to making our own mini Jurassic Park movies, like in-universe footage and that. So it's been a really insane year for us this time.
It's astonishing. That's amazing.
The campaigns have been interesting, because with Masrani Global, we didn't do any dinosaurs. It was all text on screen, some pictures of the characters, all that sort of stuff. And the dinosaurs were more hidden. Dinosaur Protection Group got to use images of the dinosaurs and all that. And then this time we're actually making videos and making our own dinosaurs come to life. So, and they pretty much signed off everything we did. Like they just gave us free reign. They were like, go have fun with it and see what you can come up with. And almost everything we sent them got through. One of the most crucial ones that got through, we were really praying got through.
Which one?
Made it. One involving the Jurassic Park 3 velociraptors, which haven't been seen since the third movie. We just love those raptors. And
the ones that say Alan.
Yeah, those ones. And there's one currently in the works right now that I'm like, please get through, because someone might make a cameo in it. So
ooh, cool. Very cool.
Although I just had a quick follow-up question. I'm so impressed. I mean, obviously the fact that, as you said, you moved from humble fan to someone who's now actually like interacting with and kind of affecting the world that, that's been built. That's super cool. But I'm also impressed by your technical know-how.
Yes.
Is this something that you were trained to do, or have you like learned this along the way?
The team we work with is made up of very different talented people. So like I head the company that we've established, Chronicle Media, and Chaosphere and Myth is known by name in the fandom. I won't even get into that. It's like a whole different scale of fish.
Okay.
But I headed the campaign this time. Tim was busy working because Tim's like the co-founder as well, me and Tim. Tim was busy with something else. So this time around, we both did the last two campaigns together in unison and headed those together. But this time it was like he sort of passed the buck to me a bit more this time. Obviously, I have an extensive knowledge of Jurassic, but at the same time, like I said, I don't know everything, and the fans teach me a lot of stuff, so I talk to them all the time, and I watch almost pretty much everything they put out on YouTube and podcasts and stuff, because I want to hear what they think about a certain subject, because then that means if I start writing a bit of text for the canon, I might be able to like answer some questions or quell some worries, or directly put something that they have wanted to see for ages into canon. And I didn't know I was a sound designer until this campaign, because I've been doing all the sounds for the videos. So I've been taking all the dinosaur sounds and trying to make it sound as real as possible, because this is meant to be phone footage. So
right
you have to bear in mind it's not meant to be like, so the movies, they even though the effects look amazing, the film's glossy looking. They color grade it, they add like all these effects and make it look really clean and sleek, and even though it looks real, what we're creating is like raw footage that you would have on your phone, that there's no gloss, and it's like it has to look as real as possible, and also has to sound as real. So I didn't realize I was quite the sound designer because I've been doing that, and that's been a lot of fun. Then Manuel, who I mentioned before, was brought on. He's the CG artist, and he's the guy who's been solely animating all these dinosaurs.
Oh gosh.
So he's a genius. Some members of our team, like for example, there's a guy on our team called Ross, who's an old school friend of mine that's best friends with him for years. I brought him into our company for Fallen Kingdom. He went out into the woods at night and just filmed this like Blair Witch type video where he's like lost in the woods and you can hear something out there. And then he turns and screams. And then Manuel added this juvenile Allosaurus, because I picked the juvenile Allosaurus because I was like, let's see a baby be really like horrible. And this juvenile Allosaurus comes out of the darkness and just takes this person out. But I didn't see the footage. I just said, let's just use that dinosaur. And they went off and did that together. So Ross filmed it, and then they sent me the footage with no sound on, so I had to add the dinosaur sounds in. But like, that's when I become a fan, because I'm watching their video and I'm like, oh, this is so cool, like watching it play out.
And we can see that on dinotracker.com.
Yeah, it's all live right now, so you can go on there and go have a look.
I know what I'm doing tonight.
Awesome. There's even not to get too deep, because in our campaigns, all three of them, we've been telling like a sub story for the real deep fans. Like, so you go into like all the reports on Dinosaur Protection Group and all the stuff in the setup in Masrani Global. In this website, it's more just the sightings, but there's like secret pins hidden on the map, and when you highlight the text, there's like invisible links appear, and you can click and it opens up like leaked documents from Biosyn, and it goes deep. So awesome. There's like one I can tell you just right now, which isn't too much of a spoiler because you've seen the film. But in the movie, they're being chased by these they're not dinosaurs, I think oh my god, the paleo nerd's gonna go nuts here. Synapsids that live in the cave. So they're closer related to mammals than they are dinosaurs, even though everyone thinks they're dinosaurs. Those four-legged things with a big sail on their back, like Grant and everyone's fighting them off in the cave. Well, Maisie, she picks up a human skull and throws it at them. On our website, there's a document, like one of the leaked documents of Biosyn is about a creature lost in the tunnels, and there's a maintenance guy who's gone missing, and it's like, that's his skull.
Oh, that's his skull.
So it's like, it's little like ties like that, but you can read the document on our website and you'll be like, ooh, I wonder what creature that is, even though they don't name it. And then when you watch the film, you're like, oh, I think I know, that was the guy that went missing. Stuff like that we've been doing. That's all hidden on the website. Yeah, there's many layers. So you've got like the top layer is all the sightings right on top, and then you've got like the leaked documents, the layer underneath, and there's so many Easter eggs on the website. I wouldn't even begin to go down that path. And then obviously the Twitter is another layer. You go onto the Twitter and there's a whole different kettle of fish on there, which
that's going to be so
adds
fun
to this world. Yeah, that's basically where we're at right now. But in terms of like the speciality, like I didn't go to university. I've been once described as autodidactic. I've been like learning this all by myself, training myself, like learn Photoshop myself, doing stuff. And I like to credit my teacher, but that's me, so I can't really do that. So I don't want to blow my own trumpet, but it's taken years to like learn this stuff. And obviously, if you'd have gone back in time to when I was a kid and said, guess what you'll be doing in the future, I'd be like, no way. And then it'd be like, well, this is what it took to get there. And then I'd show them the work and it'd be like, oh my God, that's a lot of work.
Yeah, it is.
So yeah.
But it's paid off.
Yeah.
Yes, it's paid off.
This is all you do. When you say I work from home, this is your job, I would assume.
No, I work for Chronicle Media. I'm the head of the studio. So Chronicle's this digital collectibles company online, and all the collectibles are designed and stuff in house, and I run all that. So
okay, so that's totally separate.
Tim's company. Yeah, it's a whole different company. Although Chronicle Media was subcontracted by Universal to work on these videos. Okay. But yeah, so that's a whole different company run by Tim, who I worked with on Jurassic, and he was the guy once he set this company up and said, Jack, do you want to come work for us? So we're connecting that way. So we're sort of helping each other up, each time we go. So now I've done the Jurassic stuff. That's done fantastically well. So Tim's like, yeah, we can incorporate that into what we're doing.
And how cool is it that his name is Tim? Does he have like the human piece of toast as his bio?
Well, this is so impressive. But kind of backing up for just a minute, you mentioned taking your grandpa to see the film. Was that your first time seeing the new movie, or had you already seen it before you took him?
I did see the film a year ago. It was an early cut of the movie. Can't go too much into it, but the director because he lives in the UK. He's American, but he's since become a British citizen. Okay. And he probably lives about 3 hours drive from where I live, but he's close to Pinewood Studios, which is where they shoot all the big movies now. They shot like the James Bond and the Alien movies there as well. Oh my gosh. Back in the day. But that's it was a place called Shepperton Studios, and I emailed him because I talk to the director quite often. I emailed him just saying like, oh, if you're going to show the movie early, do you want some fan eyes on it, and I can give you some feedback? And so he's like, hey, I've got 4 tickets, do you want to come down? And it was like a week later.
He loves you.
So we went and saw the film, saw what we saw. Yeah. And bear in mind, we'd been told the entire plot by him. Yeah. About a year before that as well. Yeah. In prep, but then obviously COVID messed everything up. So we had to sit on what we knew he'd told us for a while. And then we see the film and we give our feedback. And I had a 2-hour-long phone call with him afterwards, like a Skype call, where we just talked about like my thoughts, my theories, what I didn't like, what I thought worked, and all that sort of stuff. I can tell you one little thing in a minute about that. But that was when I saw the film. And then if you saw the film last night or recently...
She saw it last night. I saw it Friday.
Okay. So imagine seeing that film and then you're not allowed to talk about it for a year.
I can't imagine
where we were at. I was like, and as a fan, I was like, I had to keep my mouth shut. And the only people I could talk to were the other 3 friends of mine who came with me, but we all had already had the big discussion about it. So we were like, itching. But then the next time I would see it was at the premiere in LA on the 6th. So I was over there for that last week. And then I've seen it. I saw it once with my family as soon as I got back because my nephew.
He was dying. I bet.
Called Charlie. Oh, he's a huge Jurassic nerd. He's actually in one of the sighting videos. There's one I set in my hometown. It's a Baryonyx sleeping by a swimming pool.
Okay, I'm gonna.
You'll see it when you see it. That's my whole family in the video, and
that's awesome.
They're all like filming it with their cameras. Like, oh my God, what is that? But little Charlie's in there, so I went and saw it with him, and then the day after, I took my granddad. So I've seen it 4 times in total.
Oh my God!
Wow, you know this movie.
Yeah, and I am planning a 5th. I do want to go see it a 5th time.
From your first secretive seeing of it, your preview, did it change? I mean, did they take that feedback and actually change things?
Yeah. Did they listen to you?
Yes, they did. I can't really talk about what we saw that's not in the cut.
Sure.
One thing I can say though is I haven't watched the credits, so I have no idea if I have a credit for this. I don't.
Oh, I hope you do.
Because I don't think I do because it's something so stupid. One of my feedbacks was the whole scene in Malta. And by the way, spoilers for anyone listening.
Oh yeah, we'll put this up. Yes.
Yeah. So in the new movie, they're in Malta, or they arrive in Malta, and Owen and Claire meet up with an old friend called Barry. And in the cut we saw, they do that, and then they go off on their adventure across Malta, and the whole time they're holding their fingers to their ears, talking to each other. And it's a bugbear of mine in movies because I was like, I know they have little mics in there, but we never saw them get given them. So it looks really lazy. It looks like they're running around and the actors are just holding their ears and there's nothing there.
Yeah.
Nothing tangible for the audience to grip onto. And this was a bugbear of mine. I'm not like a huge fan of the series, but like the Avengers movies, right at the beginning of the Avengers movies, they had these like big mics. They'd all talk to each other like with these little things. And then by the time you get to the newer ones, the actors are just holding their ears with their fingers because you just assume they've got tiny little mics in there. That's fine because they added like a progression. In this film, where Jurassic's never really done that kind of action movie type thing before, it's a whole new genre for it to step into. I wish we could have seen the ear mics. And the director was like, oh, we did shoot a shot of Barry giving them the ear mics. He's like, it's like 17 seconds long. I'll put it back in. I'm watching the cut and there it is. And I'm like, thank you. And it's something so small, so stupid, but it made me really happy. I was like, that just makes all the difference because it makes the whole holding the ear thing not seem so stupid and ridiculous. So
I love that.
That's one thing the feedback we gave. So made a little bit of a change there.
You're right. It gives a reason for them to be doing this. Otherwise, you would ask that, and you don't want to be asking like, that question.
How are they communicating with each other? Like,
we love the behind the scenes stories. Thank you for sharing that one. We're also a little starstruck, or at least I am. Do you have any other behind the scenes stories that you could share with us? Like maybe some involving the actors, or like at the premiere, were you there with like Jeff Goldblum, or anything that you might want to share that'd be a little interesting?
I don't want to brag too much, but I have got quite a few. So it's like, I can't say them all. But Jeff Goldblum, unfortunately, he has eluded me every single time because the Fallen Kingdom premiere, I couldn't get to him because there was like this he was over in this VIP section, like it may be VIP section,
right? But
the premiere just gone. They all had a screening in New York they had to get to, so as soon as the film was finished, everyone came out for the after party. The main cast, like the actual all the big names, just disappeared. Except for the director, who was going to be at that same screening, but he's a beast, so he stuck around, talked to us all, and had his night of celebration. But like a lot of characters and actors and stuff, we met BD Wong, who plays Wu. Which I was really happy to meet because obviously he's one of the staple characters.
Yeah, he's been in
more movies
than most of them.
Than most of them. Yeah, even though he's been like a bit part in a lot of them. Big actor I had a really long conversation with at the last premiere was Campbell Scott, who plays the villain Dodson.
Yeah,
very long conversation. And I know you're recording this, and I'm assuming it's going to be like audio only for everyone. Listening.
We may put it on our YouTube. We might put it on YouTube. Yeah. So they'll see you.
So I'll say this. You haven't been on the website yet, but when we got to the after party, playing behind the bars, there's a few bars dotted around, with free drinks. They were playing videos of our website. You probably can't see it.
What?
They had our website huge behind the bar repeating. So the one I just showed you was the pool video of the Baryonyx, and I'm standing there talking to the guy who played Dodson, and I look over and there's my family, and I just went, and he was like, what did you do on it then? Like, did you work behind the scenes? I was like, no, we made this. And I explained it to him, and he was so impressed. I've actually got a video on my phone of like, I'm filming again, like later on in the night. I'm like too impressed. I'm like, I've got to film this for my family. So I'm filming it, and I turn the camera, and he sees what I'm doing, and obviously was impressed. He walks past and he's like this, like clapping, and I'm like, hey, Lewis Dodson gives me the thumbs up. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. But yeah, that's just a little story from the new premiere. But yeah, a lot that I could talk about, but I don't want to bore the listeners too much by
well, that's a wonderful story, and how just, I don't know, full circle and enriching and just proud.
I said right at the beginning in 2014 when I was invited to Universal's offices in London to read the script.
Yeah.
And I was sat there and I was like, I'm holding the script for Jurassic Park 4, and you have to bear in mind, like as a fan, I'd waited 14 years for this movie. I didn't even know. In 2008, when Michael Crichton and Stan Winston died, I remember that the producer Kathleen Kennedy at the time went on many interviews saying that they don't think they're ever going to continue Jurassic. They think it's done because how can you continue it on from here? And we know that they were in production hell for years. So there was a point where I thought it was done. And I was like, okay, that is what it is. But then I was sitting there in this office, holding the script. And I was like, okay, they said you only have one read. And when you read a script, it takes about the same length as the runtime of the movie to read.
Yes.
So a 2-hour movie, it should take 2 hours to read.
Yes.
So I read the script. And even in that point, I even said, I went, if this is it, I just get to read the script and I leave and work doesn't happen.
Yeah.
I'll die happy. It's like as a fan, because out of all the fans in the world, how why me kind of thing.
Wow.
But then now to do what we've done and what we've achieved, it's I mean the director has said in interviews that we're not fans anymore, we're partners, and it's like I still feel like the fan, so like it doesn't quite resonate, but yeah, we'll see what the future holds. I mean, we can prove to them now that we can make dinosaur movies, so that's one thing that I'm hoping we can lean in on in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they're expanding this Jurassic universe, it's like if they want a found footage movie or something,
I think you'd be the perfect person for that. And I don't know, you're selling yourself short. I mean, you seem like the perfect fan to get this opportunity. I'm not jealous at all. I'm happy for you. I'm like, this guy really earned this. This is amazing.
Well, that's why I like to talk to the fans though, because I said to Tim when we were brought on for Masrani Global, the first thing I said to Tim once we got the email and everything was signed, like we literally signed the contract, so we were in.
Yeah.
I said to Tim, the insane responsibility we have, because they're asking us to build the world of Jurassic.
Yeah.
Like because you watch the movies, like let's take everything we've worked on out of the picture for a second and just take the movies. There's a lot of unanswered questions.
Yeah.
There's a lot of details where you're like, well, what's this? What's that?
Yeah.
Like, what does this mean? Like, why are they not talking about that island? That kind of thing. That our websites and a lot of the fans out there really lean into our work heavily. But what they don't realize, or some of them realize, that they've actually built it with us, because that's why I talk to them. That's why I listen to podcasts. I'm like listening to what they want, and I'm like, okay, where's the middle ground so we can make the least amount of fans upset? You know, because we know what the director's vision is, and nothing's stopping that train, because you know directors and the film studio have set budget. They've already signed off on stuff. It's happening no matter what. Some things can change in the production. Got a little story about that, like the ear mic thing. Yeah. But even in terms of canon as well. But like the websites were designed, and the director obviously sat down with us and was like, "You guys are going to be setting the world up for the fans before they go see the movie. So you're like laying the carpet out for the movie to then walk down. That's the idea."
That's nice.
So I said to Tim, the responsibility for that is, I can't even fathom it. Out of all the millions of Jurassic fans in the world, it's like we were the ones picked. So
you were the right ones.
Well, yeah, I'll leave that for you. Said it, I didn't. But
well, I did, and I will say it proudly. I have a question for you. Speaking of an unanswered question, here's one I had when I was watching it. Where in the world did Dodson find that Barbasol can? Did he go?
You have to wait. Okay, so
in the
fans
first
out
one,
there, fans out there who know me, okay, know that I'm not a fan of this series. But there is a Netflix animated series called Camp Cretaceous.
Okay, yes, I've heard of that.
That is considered canon by Universal.
Okay.
So we have to respect it when we write stuff.
Okay.
Personally speaking, now I'm not talking for Universal, I'm not talking for our company.
Clear.
For me, don't like the show.
Okay.
But the 5th series is coming out in July.
Okay, it explains that.
The answer's going to be in there.
Okay, because when he had that, I was like, dude, that was clearly covered with mud. Unless you went to the island and knew exactly where he crashed, you would never find that.
And bear in mind, I have no idea, even though I'm a canon consultant and work on this, I have no idea what they're doing in that season, because that's a different side of the company entirely.
Yeah.
So I have no idea what to expect. I just know that that's going to be answered in there. And that's already public knowledge, by the way. I'm not breaking any NDA. It just, I think it was today they released an interview about it. So, where they mentioned that. But do you want to hear my head canon? So like, if you've ever heard the term head canon, what do I think happened? I think the can he picks up in Dominion is a prototype. And he's just sentimental about like, this is where I began. And he's just like, he's sentimental about it.
It's rusty.
Well, it's old.
Just normal
20
rust.
years old.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, just normal rust. That's my head canon.
Gotcha.
Because I can't, I don't want to get in too much trouble with Universal if they ever heard this interview.
No, we don't want you to. We want you to stay with them. We love them.
As a fan, because I am a fan. That's the thing. I'm a fan of this franchise as well. So I have my own thoughts and feelings.
Piggybacking on that, listening to you talk, Jack, I'm so impressed by the fact that you're a super fan, but you're so invested that you're being called a partner on one hand with the people who are creating this, but on the other hand, you're so in tune with the fans and what the fans know and what the fans feel. It's interesting. You're almost like a liaison in some ways, it sounds like. But with all that in mind, I'm going to throw a hard question at you.
Do it.
How satisfied are you with the way that they kind of concluded the storylines for both the Legacy cast and the Jurassic World cast?
I loved it because it's so out of left field, and I'm a person who loves getting straight to the point. I hate riffraff. So like when Owen, for example, meets Alan Grant, he's like, "You trained raptors," and Owen's like, yeah," and then it's like, of course they would be talking about that, but they don't go into it too much.
Okay.
The director does simple. It's not simple as in like bad for me anyway. I think some people might disagree, but it's simple in its genius. Like he's always written like this. So he says, Owen goes up to Alan Grant. I'm using this specific example. Owen goes up to Alan Grant and he says, "Hey, I listened to I read your book. Well, book on tape."
Yeah.
Right? The reason the fact that he says book on tape leads me to believe that it was before he even had the job at Jurassic World.
Because
it was
on
like
tape.
He was young and he was listening to it on tape, and that's what inspired him to be to go in. He's in the Navy, and then he trained dolphins or whatever was in the backstory, and then he goes off to Jurassic World. But like, to me, that just expands the universe in your mind with just a couple of words.
Gotcha.
And it's like, and they don't need to have like this whole exposition of like them sitting down and discussing it in intricate detail. That one sentence of, "Oh, I listened to your book, book on tape," and then he's like, "Oh yeah, you're Owen Grady, you worked at Jurassic World," and then Malcolm comes and goes, "Jurassic World, not a fan." Just instantly just gets everything out of the way without relying on boring the audience too much. So that's what I love about the new film, and my favorite aspect of the new film is actually the locusts, because it's so out of left field, and it feels like something that Michael Crichton, the guy who created this whole universe, would have written. He wrote a book called Prey, which is all about nanobots going through the air like locusts, so it reminded me of that. But also, if this is the conclusion of the Jurassic era, I like that it began with them extracting dinosaur DNA from a bug, and then the conclusion is the bugs are the problem now. Like the dinosaurs are a problem in their own right, but the bugs are now presenting like, "Oh, okay, we really messed up with these things."
And now they're injecting it into the bugs to cure. They took it out to start, and now they're injecting it to cure the problem.
Exactly. So it's like a weird like twist on everything. And it's funny you say that, because I'm gonna get on a really nerdy point here. Okay,
go for it.
There's an old Jurassic Park 4 script that you can find online. I think it's on JurassicOutpost.com, which is like this big fan website. There's a script for Jurassic Park 4 written back in 2004, so during the lull period. It's one of those ones that involves like dinosaurs with human DNA mixed in them. But there's this whole, it starts with John Hammond, and he's like, "I need you." He talks to a character called Nick Harris, which would eventually become Owen Grady. And Nick Harris is tasked with going to Isla Nublar to find that can, and so Hammond can grow a load of dinosaurs with a pathogen in them to go and breed with the other dinosaurs to eradicate them, which is what they plan to do with the locusts in the new film.
Interesting.
And this is why I love the franchise, regardless of how good or bad a film is. This is what I said in my review. Regardless of how good or bad a film is, the fan in me is more fascinated with how ideas that I thought were dead come back up 20 years later.
Yeah, this is what I wanted to ask you about. You mentioned in that review, is that the lost script that you're talking about, where something like Steven Spielberg had ideas for a raptor trainer? Is it all that in the script?
Yeah, so if you read the John Sayles script, it's fun, by the way. It's not Jurassic Park in the slightest. Like, it's ridiculous. You've got dinosaurs parachuting out of a plane at one point, and they've got guns fixed to them and stuff. It's ridiculous, but you can see where we could have nearly gone completely wrong. But at the same time, it's a fun read. Like, in its own right, it's a fun read. But when you read that script, it's got a guy training for Deinonychus, but they're basically velociraptors.
Okay.
He's training them. They've all got names. Oh no, actually, it's 5 of them. It's Achilles, Perseus. Oh, I can't remember.
This is why you're the #1 fan, Jack. You even know 2 of their names.
Yeah. Well, I did a video on my YouTube channel all about the history of Jurassic Park 4, and I go into it, but that's where I got it from memory. But anyway, he's training raptors. There's a scene where he gets kidnapped and taken to a castle in the European mountains, and you've got this whole storyline of John Hammond wanting to create this pathogen thing. So you watch the Jurassic World trilogy, the new films. You have a guy training raptors. In the second film, Fallen Kingdom, you have a big castle setting with dinosaurs in a basement, which is the same as that script. And then in the new one, you have the Biosyn Valley set in Europe with this whole pathogen thing. So you can see ideas from this script being dripped into the new film, but like completely changed. But they're still got the core, like, set in Italy or castle type setting and that. So that's where my like nerd brain goes. So I'm like, I was like watching it. I was like, I'm noticing things from that script I read years ago. It's fascinating how that just lingers for ages.
Yeah.
But I get that now, because with the website we've worked on, there's a video, it's an Easter egg on the website, which if you want me to go into it, I can. But there's a video that we made in 2018, which I made with Manuel, the animator, years ago. And I looked at it and I was like, this is so good. I'm going to not release this at all until we have it in official canon, because I could have just released it then and there. We could have had some fun showing fans like our ideas of like, what if, but we held on to it for this long. And then we got to release it on this website this time. And it's official. It's got the official stamp of approval from Universal and the director and stuff. So.
I am going to start an online campaign that you get to direct this and make this script into a movie. Why not? If it's something fun, it could be like the Sharknado version of Jurassic Park. If they've got this.
I have an idea. I have an idea. I don't want to go into it too much, because obviously I don't want to sell my idea and someone steal it, because that's the nature of Hollywood. But my idea is, imagine, have you seen the movie Hot Fuzz?
Yes.
Okay, imagine Hot Fuzz meets Jaws, and that's all I'm going to say.
Oh my god!
It's like something happening in a little British English town, and no one there knows how to handle this dinosaur. But we have an idea. Me and Tim have written scripts before in the past. It's just finding that right moment to
pitch it,
to pitch it, but also like not seem too desperate or ridiculous, because
you're not desperate or ridiculous. You have proven yourself. You need to talk to your friend Colin.
Well, maybe I have, but it's the idea of like, you want to put the idea out there, but when you don't want to go too crazy, because they think in like the studio producers think in numbers.
Mm-hmm.
They're thinking, how much is it going to cost?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how are we going to market this? Who's going to be in it? How much is the actor going to cost? That's what they're thinking. So when you sell the idea, it's got to be just the right idea,
the right log line.
Yep. And so far, holding back on stuff for the right moment, we've done that quite well so far. So touch wood, that continues. So
good. Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll leave that topic so you don't have to spoil your stuff. This is my question after seeing Dominion. In just talking the first one, just Jurassic Park versus Jurassic World Dominion, and comparing the two sets of child actors. So Lex and Tim and Maisie, not talking about her being a clone, just a child. To me, they had completely different temperaments. We had Lex and Tim seemed, of course, Tim with his small size, he was already vulnerable, but they seemed more innocent, more vulnerable, more when they were in peril, your heart just sort of wanted them to be okay. And they were always the ones in trouble. They were always at the center of the thing. With Maisie, to me, she seemed more emotionally wounded, which could have been from the cloning, but or petulant and kind of trapped by circumstance. But she was more mature. She's roughly the same age Lex was. I think she's 14. And how old was Lex? Was she 12 or 14?
12.
Yeah. So they're a few years apart. How do you feel about the two kids? Do you feel like Maisie was vulnerable at all? Or do you feel like it's a reflection of kids in 1993 versus kids in whenever this is supposed to be set? What year is this? 2024?
2022. Every Jurassic film, it comes out in the year it's set in, even though like in 2015 there's like holograms and whatever, it's like an alternate universe, but it's set in the years. My thoughts on that are this. So I'll start with Maisie. Obviously you said excluding the clone stuff, and it's very hard to get away from that. But also if you watch Fallen Kingdom, where we're introduced to her, she's on her own in that big mansion. And she likes to play hide and seek. She knows all the ins and outs of that house. Like she's crawling through vents and she knows how to get around the house. And she's there's a bit where she pokes a key out from the door and it lands on a bit of paper, and then she slides it out just so she can escape from her room. So she's very like, she's on her own. She's very independent and does everything herself, which you can't blame her because she's been locked in that big castle pretty much all her life. And then you see in the new film, it's like a progression of that. She's trapped in this tiny little log cabin and she's getting sassy. Just a side note, my friend Sam, who runs Jurassic Cast, who's now part of our team, he has a daughter who's 14, and he said the most realistic thing in that whole movie is Maisie. Because he said the way she talks, because she's got the accent as well, he was like, it just sounds like my daughter talking to me. Really? He's like, at the beginning, he was like that's the most realistic thing, and he even said it to the director. He was like, the most realistic thing you put in that movie, all the special effects, like that Maisie's character, for him anyway. My daughter's too young, so I'll learn that probably later on down the line. But then to go to Lex and Tim, the reason I think they are so vulnerable is because they're tied to Grant's character, about how he's learning to want to have children and that progression. Obviously, later films retcon his progression.
I'm so upset about that, but that's a different.
That's a whole different topic. But like, if you take the first film on its own, the story, the main character is Grant, and you're following him, and his arc is overcoming. He has to be protective of these children, and he gets lost in the jungle with them, and they rely on him. And obviously, beginning of the film, he doesn't like children. Right. So for Tim and Lex to both be these vulnerable characters, I think plays into that. Because if they were like Maisie, he wouldn't be needed. Yeah, he wouldn't be needed as much. But there's a whole I've seen videos online where people go into, like, you know, when Lex says like he left us like, but that's in the tunnel, I'm gonna do, and it's not what I'm gonna do. There's two layers to that. She's saying he left us because Gennaro got out the car and ran to the toilet, but it's also their parents are going through a divorce. And her dad. So is she talking about her dad? And there's like different layers. But then obviously you get to the end of the film and the kids have to depend on themselves in the kitchen. Yeah. And it's just as terrifying. Yeah. But then Lex, this is the only part of the first film where I'm like, this is where like the cheese comes in. And I'm like, I don't know why more people don't remember this part, but like Lex suddenly just drops all her fears and becomes this hacker. Yeah. There's a rap at the door. And I'm like, system, I know this. Yeah. Yeah. And there's like 2 lines of dialogue early on in the film set up that she likes computers. One, she got excited by the touchscreen, and one, she says she was a hacker earlier on. That's it. That's all your foreshadowing for her suddenly being like, I'm not scared anymore. I'll get to the computer. 90s hacker stuff. So it's like, so she does take control a bit there. They're 2 different characters, but I can see why Maisie is the sort of right character for the kids who grew up with Jurassic World. So like they Jurassic World was their first film, and then they get to Dominion, and they're a little bit more grown up. Maybe they're 14 years old. Now, like I can relate to this character. So I think that's where it comes from. Whereas when I was 4 years old, Tim, I was like jealous of Tim. I was like, oh, you get to go around this park and see dinosaurs and that. Yeah. But, yeah. So I think you're partly right about like the whole decade difference. There is there. Yeah, because when I saw it as a 13-year-old, I was, if she was 12, we were the same age. And I really identified with her. I mean, I wasn't a hacker, but I had that same kind of absolute abject terror about this stuff. So I put myself in her shoes. And I think the kids today are more, I don't know. I mean, they seem to be more like Maisie, where they're more, because of the technology, they are more world weary and the internet, independent. So I just wanted your thoughts on that, what you thought about the difference. I was just going to say, but I will say that Maisie is my favorite kid character in all of the movies. Really, even more than Lex? Yeah, because I just love the whole, like her being a clone aspect, because it's so dark and like interesting. And then the new film, because when Fallen Kingdom came out, everyone thought that when they revealed the clone plot, everyone thought she was going to be like, if you've ever seen the film Alien Resurrection, but like she was going to be like, you know, this cloned human in a glass tube, like Frankenstein's monster or something. It's like, oh, she was grown in a lab. But when you get to Dominion, you learn how actually really grounded and organic and realistic it is, where it was someone who wanted to be a mum who knew they were on death's door, you know, didn't have time to date and do all that sort of stuff. So it's like, but they wanted to prove a scientific experiment as well, to like bring a new era of positive genetic engineering to the world, and wanted to be a mother. And I love that. It was like, that was so much more heartwarming, but like kind of sinister as well, because you're giving birth to yourself. It's it's creepy. It's creepy. Yeah, it is creepy. But it was more tangible. Like it was like, reminded me of the first film where they make you believe that they can clone dinosaurs from DNA from amber. This one made me believe that someone could actually clone themselves. The way they were talking about it, and the actors and stuff. So yeah, that's why Maisie's my favorite character, because she's got so much going on as a character. But
like in the first film, you still have the family unit. I mean, Maisie overcomes her independence, and she realizes how much she does appreciate. She recognizes them as her parents, and that connection, I think, is reaffirmed at the end of the story, which in a way I think mirrors what we saw in the Jurassic. Or would you guys disagree with?
No, you are 100% right. That is completely correct. Yeah, because the whole movie she's like, "You're not my mother," and then when she's
and
like,
then she says it's my parents.
That got to me.
Aw.
It's being a new dad. It's being a new dad. Like, and especially when I saw the film at the early preview last year, there's that bit where she's got the Charlotte Lockwood has Maisie on her lap.
Yes.
And my daughter just looked exactly like her. So I was like, I was getting choked up. I was like, oh no, it's reminding me of my baby.
So my other question for you, as far as what do you think about this, is I think it's baffling. There is a controversy on whether or not Ellie and Alan were actually a couple in that first film, because people are like, why are they together now? And I'm like, what do you mean? To me, she called him honey. They were holding hands. They were talking about having children together.
They filmed a scene where they kiss.
Yeah.
There's a picture of it online. You can see. No one's seen the footage, but there's a shot of them kissing on.
They were clearly a couple. And
the first time you see him, she's putting a scarf around his neck, and then they put their arms around each other.
He says something like baby or something. What are those? They're tiny versions of adults, honey. She calls him honey. You don't call your buddy honey. Yeah. So that's baffling to me. So, and also I was disappointed in Jurassic Park 3 because they broke them up. I thought, why would you do this? These two people clearly adore each other, loved each other. Do you have any insight into why they broke these two characters up? Because he was clearly ready to be a dad by the end of Jurassic Park.
It's funny you bring this up because I just finished reading the ultimate visual history.
I bought that too because you told me to buy that.
Okay, so they do mention the reasons why in there, but so I'm going from memory.
Okay.
They wanted to break it up because I think the director wanted it to be more like, it's more realistic that they're like not together, that their trauma has sort of like caused them to go, like Ellie's gone to go down the family route and write books in a quiet Washington home, and Grant's gone back to the field to go to what he loves. And so I think the director was like, I think, when they're sitting at the dinner table in the third film, and he's like, do you remember the sounds they made? And she's like, I try not to. Like, it's one of those things where like the trauma was a bit too much for them. So that's why they parted ways, which I can see. But and this is a big pet peeve of mine with the Jurassic movies, it's like, because they wrote divorce in the first film with Tim and Lex's parents, there's so much divorce in this series. It's just nice if there was like a couple who lasted. Like just a nice story. The only ones we have are, from memory, the Kirbys from the third one, because at the end of they're already divorced, but I think they get back together.
They get back together. Yes.
Yeah. The parents in Jurassic World, the kids find out their parents are getting divorced, and I think by the end of the film it's sort of assumed they're getting together.
Maybe,
but no one's ever been confirmed. So now by the end of this Dominion, I'm like, yes, finally some families, actual families have found love, and they're not beating around the bush anymore. They're together. It's like good, right? No, you don't have to do that all the time, but like to keep, because it'd be unrealistic. But at the same time, it's like, I didn't mind Alan and Ellie. They could have been together. It wouldn't have bothered me because I wouldn't have known any different when it came out.
Yeah.
But when I was little, it didn't bother me too much. It bothered me more when I got older, as I just said, because of that reason. But now they've split up Ellie and Mark from the third film, and I'm like, that's another divorce to add to the pile.
That's not a divorce. That's not a divorce. That was a plot device.
It's worth it because they didn't just have it a throwaway comment. Like, so this is what I wouldn't have liked in Dominion if they went this route. Grant and Ellie are just together, and they mentioned that she broke up with Mark, and then they're just together, like couple instantly from the outset, like how Ellie and Mark were in the third film. So I like that Dominion's story for those characters is them learning to get back together. There's only one detail that I would have changed if I was in charge and I had all the elements that Colin had.
Well, that was one of our questions, so please.
Yes, tell us.
Okay, so it's a minute detail, but I think it's an important one. And obviously fans think like this all the time, like, oh, I wish I had this. But okay, so in every Jurassic movie we see Grant at his dig site, he always talks about how funding is drying up.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, you'd think by Dominion's timeline that if he's still digging, the funding hasn't dried up. He's obviously been looking elsewhere for you think he should be like, there should be no money left by that point. But anyway, so Jurassic Park, it makes sense. Hammond's funding his dig site, so he goes off to the island. The third one, he says that they're going to have to shut down because since everyone's found out about the dinosaurs, paleontology is sort of taken a nosedive because they're like, hey, dinosaurs are out there now. Why are we digging up bones? I think they even mention that in the movie. And then you get to this one, and he even says to Ellie, oh, the funding's drying up, so we have to get these students in. The thing I would have changed is I would have made it so now dinosaurs are global.
Yeah.
Paleontology is booming because people want to know about these animals and they're fascinated by them. If they're going to have to live with them, it's like we better learn everything we can about them. And I think what that would have also done is there's a line later on in the film where Ellie says, "I thought you were happy, Grant," and he's like, "No, I wasn't."
Yeah.
It would have emphasized her thinking that he was happy if she turned up and he was in his element, like he had all the funding at his disposal, he had all the latest technology to do it, and so that would give that facade or that mask on Grant, like look like he's happy, and Ellie's like, "Oh, you're doing really well for yourself," and he's like, yeah, since the dinosaurs are going out,
I like
doing
that.
really well. I actually thought it would have been the opposite, but they said they did the classic like, well, funding's drying up again. I'm like, he just copying the first film. Like, no, stop, mix it up, change it. It's a minute thing, but I think for that line later on where she says, "I thought you were happy," it would have been really important.
That makes a lot of sense. I like your idea a lot. I was really convinced that Lex was going to be in the movie because of all of her Instagram posts and stuff, and then she wasn't. And I was telling Candy, I feel like they could have at least alluded to them, where when she says, "You don't have kids," and he says, "No," but he could have had a throwaway line, "But I still talk to people I consider my," I don't even know how I would write it, but you could have Lex and Tim mentioned where he has kept in touch with them, or he has been a surrogate father. It's
like a father figure.
Yeah, he's been the surrogate father. And then even going further, I was like, well, what if Alan Grant went and married their mother and he's their stepfather, and then they broke up and now him and Ellie can get together, just some way to get Lex and Tim so we know what happened to them. That's one thing I was disappointed, like, well, what happened to them? We know what the actors are doing, but what did specifically Lex and Tim deal with?
Yeah, the last we saw of them was in The Lost World, where they had that little cameo.
Yeah, that was it.
And then that's it. Yeah, so I have no idea what they're doing. And it's funny because Tim was like obsessed with dinosaurs, so you'd think he could have even been working with
Alan. They could have been colleagues.
The thing is, like, now they've opened up the Jurassic Universe.
Why don't you write that movie? Write me a movie about Lex and Tim.
Well, in my Hot Fuzz Jaws idea, maybe I could get Tim in there.
Yes,
that would be good. Yeah,
I would love
it.
But
it's whether Joseph Mazzello is available.
Why would he not want to do this? No, I mean, I would think even I would come out, if I was her, I'd come out of retirement to do this.
So Jack, to follow up, since you kind of already introduced that idea of this one change you would make in terms of the relationship with Grant and Ellie, if you were in charge, are there any other changes you would make to the movie?
Oh yeah, there's many. It's the problem with being like a creative person. It's like you see someone else's vision. I wouldn't change Colin's vision at all. I love it. I think it's great. Obviously, I say in my review, like, no movie's perfect. Even the first one's not perfect. Like I talk about it. The first one was a cultural milestone because of the effects, but like the movie itself, like if you took that away from it, it's not like a perfect movie. But that's the same for all of them. And I'm more fascinated, as I said, about the behind the scenes stuff. But if I was to change stuff, okay, so here's a little rundown of my nerdy things I would change. Okay, obviously the Alan dig site would be doing really well. That's number one.
Yes.
Okay. Number two, there's I'd have a bit more T-Rex. They did a dry. I don't know if you saw the Jurassic World prologue, which is on YouTube.
Yes, after the movie was over, I thought, wait a minute, why didn't they start the movie with that? That's super cool.
The drive-in sequence where the T-Rex is attacking the drone, that did open the cut we saw previously. The Mosasaurus boat stuff was not in it at all. That sort of gave you a hint of like, oh, we saw the T-Rex at the beginning, then we see it get captured, then it fights the Giganotosaurus over the deer, and then it has the end fight. But I would put that T-Rex drive-in thing at the start.
Me too.
But the deer sequence, because they mentioned they took dinosaurs from Isla Sorna, the one from the second and third movies.
Yeah.
All the fans have been crying about seeing the Spinosaurus again, that big bad one with the sail that killed a T-Rex.
Yeah.
I would have, to establish the new big bad dinosaur, I would have had the Spinosaurus come out to get that deer, and then the Giga comes out and just kicks the Spinosaurus' ass. So then audiences go, that thing killed a T-Rex, and now that thing is scared of that thing. So like, what can that do? Like that kind of levels. And plus, it would have been a fan nod to be like, hey, look, the Spinosaurus is back.
Yeah.
Or at least living there. That's just a little geeky thing. A couple of lines of dialogue I'd probably cut out. I'd probably cut out the coffee guy. The barista. Grant's like talking to this barista.
Oh yeah.
And it's like a joke about like, do you want a macchiato? Your voice is rising, and it's funny, but at the
because
same
he
time,
doesn't
I'm
do technology, so it just shows that Grant is, and he doesn't know what a DM is. He slid into my DMs, and he's like, "What's that?" It's just like, see, Grant's still in the Stone Age.
All that stuff I didn't mind. It was just the coffee person because it's so, I don't know, because it's so like true to like people I know in my home city who work at like Starbucks and stuff. It's so realistic. It just took me out of it. I was like, I don't want to see Bob, who I know down in Starbucks. Like in a Jurassic Park movie, I think it'd just be funnier if there's a way I can see it in the movie. There's a way of editing it so you don't need him in at all. It's when he turns the machine on because Malcolm walks up and says what he wants.
I bet Bob would disagree with you. Bob probably loves that he's in that movie.
Oh, of course, that actor is very lucky. Very lucky, and I wish him all the best.
Yes.
But in my cut, I wouldn't have had him in there.
Sorry, Bob.
Plus, I think it distracts a little bit from the seriousness of Malcolm telling Ellie that something is seriously going on here. Aside from that, not much else.
Okay.
Emma's just turned up.
Hello, Emma. We're almost to her question anyway.
Oh, we're almost at your question. Pull up a pew.
Hi, Emma.
I'll pass my headphones over when you ask Emma's question.
Well, on the flip side, we just talked about some dialogue, some lines you might cut. What about a favorite line, or it could be a favorite scene?
This is just off the top of my head straight away. I absolutely love the scene, and it actually ties into both. The scene where Dodson fires Malcolm.
Okay.
And then Malcolm goes on that big tirade about like how, they give you so many promotions, you start to not question about like what's behind that door and stuff. But it's when, as soon as he gets fired, is that when I saw it the first time, I was laughing my head off because I didn't expect this line of dialogue to be in a Jurassic movie. That's why it's just Malcolm turning and going, "This really was a cushy gig." It's just something about him like really liking that he was working there for a little bit. He's like, "Yeah, this really was a cushy gig," but he knew it was gonna
end.
Yeah, it was gonna end at some point. I just really love that line, and then that whole scene, but to when he clashes, and especially when he does that point at Dodson, he's like, "Dodson," and then he walks out. And it's like, oh, that I think that's from the Lost World novel. He does something like, I could be wrong about that, but
it might be.
Yeah, it's like it just felt so Jurassic. And because Jeff Goldblum wears the glasses, the dark tinted glasses, he, aside from his silver hair, he does not look old.
No.
And I was just watching it in the cinema, and I was like, I feel like a kid again. Like I'm watching a new Jurassic Park movie. Yeah, it's like it took me right back to that scene, and the guy
and the jacket
was just so good.
And the jacket. He had his cool
everything
jacket
about
on.
it was great. But then just seeing the old and new cast together, I don't know how that needs to be up there somewhere. Just their whole interaction, and it's like a dream come true seeing those two worlds collide after all this time. So
and the score coming up behind them at that one point.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's lovely. Okay, it's time for Emma's question.
All right. Oh, there you go. Yeah, I'll be back. It really was a cushy gig.
Okay. Nice to see you both.
Okay, so Emma, our question for you is, how has this whole Jurassic affected your life?
I mean, it even made it into my wedding speech.
It did. What did you say?
Oh,
I said I had no idea how much it would be in my life. We walked back down the aisle to my friend Charlotte, who's a composer, sort of rearranged the theme tune, and that's what we walked back down the aisle to.
Can I add something there?
Yeah.
It wasn't the Jurassic Park theme tune. It wasn't like the because I knew that would be too obvious. No. It was the Jurassic World end credits music. So people who didn't know wouldn't pick up that it's Jurassic, but for me, and I was like, yeah, I know this is from Jurassic. It's like a subtle score. It's called As the Jurassic World Turns. It's like it's a different tune. It's one of the new ones.
Yeah, but very much a big part. I watched the film when I was younger. I probably watched it whenever it came on telly. It was like a good film that always came on around Christmas and stuff on television. So I always watched that. But yeah, I had no idea. But it's like one of the first things I knew about Jack when I first met you. It's because you would come out. You just knew so much about dinosaurs.
Well, there's also like a detail, because when we were first dating, the new Jurassic wasn't announced or anything.
No, you just like.
So I was sort of like, I didn't know it at the time, but I was at the tail end of my like break from Jurassic from when I was a kid. Like I thought about it and I liked it, and I did watch the films regularly, but I wasn't talking about it nowhere near as enough because there wasn't really anything to talk about.
Right.
And then I made a collection video, and because they re-released Jurassic Park in the cinema because it was coming out on Blu-ray, and that's when it like went
Boom.
I think
That's where we are today.
Your level of someone not talking about Jurassic Park much is not the same.
No. Let's.
Someone
That is true. That is true.
Like, you know, you'd watched it multiple. Like, probably haven't seen it for a few years, and you're like, well, you know, I watched it a couple of weeks ago. I'll probably watch it again and go that sort of thing. But it was more dinosaurs, I think. And then, but then I had no idea that it would turn into like work for you, which was, I mean, neither of us did we? So that was quite magical when that happened.
When did you get married?
14th of May 2017.
So you had to look
I
and
had to
see.
check.
So you were not working for them yet. You started working the next year, right? 2018 is when you started working, or he started working?
I'd done one campaign. I did Masrani Global in 2015.
Before we got married.
And then
it started before we got married because we were living in London.
Okay.
Because we were living in a little studio flat in London, and Jack was working at a cinema. And I remember because she came home and you went, I've got this email from someone saying they're from Universal. It's got to be a scam, right? And I was like, yeah, definitely.
And
then we Googled it, and then we were like,
it was a guy called Dylan Bridges. It's Jeff Bridges' nephew.
Yeah.
What? Oh, so many ties.
He sounds and looks exactly like Jeff Bridges from the 80s. Like, it's crazy.
Oh my god.
Really, So we looked him up, and I was
so
like,
he's Bo's son.
It's actually real.
Yeah, Bo's son. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's still here, and Daphne now loves dinosaurs. So.
Oh yeah, I sent Emma a video just tonight. I don't know if you watched it.
I have watched it.
She was walking up and down the bar, splashing her legs, going holding this dinosaur. I didn't tell her to do it.
She's got dino DNA.
Started doing it, and I was like, okay.
She has got dino DNA. Yeah.
And I was like, what are you doing? She was like, big dinosaur.
Yeah.
Oh.
I actually have one more question for Emma. Emma, what was it like going to a big LA premiere?
Yeah.
I didn't go. I haven't been.
Get to go?
No, I haven't been to any of them. Well, like we did discuss us going to this one, but Daphne's it was quite a sort of last minute organized thing. Daphne doesn't even have a passport yet.
Oh, okay.
And we just thought it was, and then we wouldn't be able to take it. It would be too complicated. So the only premiere I've been to was Madrid, which was for the second movie. And that's because we live so close to Madrid. When you were told that you could get tickets to it, we were sat in a caravan site in England. It's caravan site, and we were like, should we go to Madrid in 3 days? Yeah, why not?
Always.
We're on holiday already.
Yeah.
And then we're like, in a week's time, we'll go
to Madrid. And we nearly missed our flight.
I've obviously wanted you to come to every single one, but the tickets are so lucrative that they only dish out a certain number.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, your team, whoever's on your team is on the list, but then like no one else. But the Madrid one was more open season. Like, and like, oh yeah, we got loads of tickets. Do you want to come? So I was like, Emma, we were going. But what we didn't.
Did you tell them about it? Yeah.
I haven't told them this story yet, but we didn't realize that the film was going to be in Spanish with no subtitles. So, and I hadn't seen the film yet, nor had Emma. So we're sitting there
guessing.
Manuel, who does all our animations, he's Spanish, so he was loving it. He was like, yeah, I get it. This is great. He's like, you're in my world now. So like, then everyone there was Spanish, and there's like a few of the British crew were there and stuff. But we were watching it, and we had like, what are they talking
There
about?
was like the opening scene when you first see Chris Pratt, he's singing, and it's like the shot of the back of him, and then but it opened with a Spanish man singing, and it just looks it was so fun. Everyone laughed. It was so funny. It was so funny. And then, but the only bit of the film I just remember, there's the bit where they're all stood outside the house, and everyone in suits is going buenas noches, buenas noches. I was like, I know what you're saying. But it was very easy to follow. There wasn't it?
Yeah, the film
very
the
visual.
Yeah, the film's not overly complicated, so you can
you can guess
visuals. You can understand what's happening. Oh, they're selling dinosaurs in cages. Like, yeah, I get it. There's a volcano, but like all the intricate details in the dialogue was like, and that one, funny enough, that film they didn't let us read the script for it, so you didn't even know, idea,
no clue,
all the intricacies of the plot. So
they were really hush hush on that one with you guys.
But they took us to the set and they showed us around, and we wrote lines for the cast, and I got to change stuff in the movie with Colin, like adding in the mention of sauna, and all that sort of stuff.
You couldn't read the script,
but we asked for it, and they said, we'll get it to you, but they never got the script.
I remember.
A lot of guesswork on that one.
Yeah. So my experience of an LA premiere was with a toddler in the UK who got a tummy bug. So it was far less glamorous than Jack.
If I ever make a movie, I'll invite you to the.
Oh, thank you. I just appreciate that.
Maybe.
That's so kind. So kind. You'll get one of the tickets.
Yeah, watch. I'll pass the headphones back. Here we go.
Hello.
Hello again. So my I think it's my last question is, what predictions do you have for where the Jurassic Park franchise is going to go next? Do you think they're going to keep going, or what would you do if you can't answer, if you do know, but you can't answer, what would you do?
Obviously, what I would do is my idea that I have for a script.
Yeah.
That'd be the thing I'd do. But that aside, if that's off the table, I genuinely would take another 15-year break.
Really?
I'd let it settle and let another generation grow up without it, to then reintroduce to kids later on down the line, and let the 6 films that we have garner more of a following. Because I think a lot of these films, especially the new one, critics have always been massively harsh on the sequels for Jurassic, but the films are always insanely popular with audiences. And then the fans of Jurassic, and you can trust me on when I say this, they know how everything links up and they understand like something. So when the locusts get introduced for something, it's not surprising to the fans, but like for the critics, they're like, I thought this was a dinosaur movie. It's like, it's a genetic engineering movie. Like, it's dinosaurs are a big part of it, that kind of thing. So I think to let people let the dust settle and let people go back and watch these movies and let them settle and fall into the cultural zeitgeist a bit more, have a break. That's what I think. Do I think Universal is going to do that? No way.
No way.
They are. My prediction is that the new film's going to make a lot of money, and then they're going to be, because they've opened up the Jurassic universe, they're going to be like looking at live action TV shows for Peacock. Camp Cretaceous, the animated show, has proven that that's popular, so they're probably going to make another series of that, and then there'll be another movie on the cards. But whether the movie is going to be a theatrical release thing or if it's going to be a streaming only thing, that's where I'm like, I don't know, because the world of movies is kind of changing. I hear the phrase online get thrown around a lot, and I kind of agree with it, that movie theaters, cinemas are becoming like just Disney superhero showcases, rather than you don't go to the cinema anymore to watch like lower budget movies anymore. Like, I remember, this is going to sound really random, I remember going to see a film called Letters to Juliet, which is like a romantic comedy with Amanda Seyfried. Yeah, I think I was with a group of friends at the time. We all went and saw it. I don't think you'd ever go see a film like that anymore at the cinema. That would be like a Netflix only.
You're right.
You don't go see films like that at the cinema. They're only big, massive spectacle movies that have spent like $200 million on them. That's the thing. And I don't know if Jurassic
will do that.
Has the
that
legs.
was my follow-up, is because of the Marvel movies cost so much, but they're doing those in phases. What's preventing them from doing that with Jurassic movies and saying, I mean, the special effects you're making dinosaurs, but those are special effects too. So why not? Why do you think they haven't embraced the...
I have a theory that I think might be correct on that. I think the reason they haven't done that yet is because they're trying to... It's the genre. Jurassic's like always stuck in this box of like, you have to hit these certain beats. You know, you have to have your dinosaurs, you have to have the characters we know and love. Now they've sort of like ended it. It's like, where do you go from here? My personal theory, as I said to you with my Hot Fuzz meets Jaws idea, don't worry, I haven't told them the idea. I just said that only, is you genre break. So for example, there's a film called Seabiscuit about horse racing. Imagine that, and someone's like racing dinosaurs, but the plot is about that, and then obviously you have a scene in there where something happens that's unique to dinosaurs, not horses, that like they break out or something, you know, or a carnivore comes in and causes some havoc. But you have basically a racing plot with dinosaurs, or you have a horror film that involves a dinosaur, and you can then cater to the older fans who want that sort of hard-hitting R-rated movie, and then you can make the kid-friendly movies. That's what they could do. They could just genre break. They can go, we're no longer trapped by the islands, we're no longer trapped by...
Especially since they've introduced it into the whole world now.
Exactly. They could do that. It's whether or not the studio is willing enough to risk the name and do that, because it's a big risk. Because once you do that, like they say in the movies, you can never put it back in the box.
Right.
You'd never be able to go back and do the Jurassic Park again, unless it's like a specific story that you're telling, which, you know, we have ideas for. But it's one of those things where that's where I think it sits at the moment. It's like in limbo. They're seeing how good Dominion does. I still think there'll be another movie. Well, yeah, it's already had like the biggest weekend opening that's not a superhero movie since before the pandemic or something. Like, it's ridiculous. Yeah.
I want to go down the list of what I wrote down as what I think are the nods, and I just did it from memory. So we saw the film. I've only only seen the film once, and I came home and Brian and I were like, okay, what do we think were the nods to just Jurassic Park? And here's my list. You can tell me if I missed them or if I got them right. And they're not in order of the film because, like I said, it's just from memory. So I have Ellie's clothing, salmon and blue. That's a nod. Grant's hat, Ian's shades and his jacket. How Ellie stands and takes off her glasses looking at the locust. You know, she does that whole open mouth thing. Ellie seeing a triceratops, the flare and the brontosaurus, brachiosaurus, like bringing, you know, having to move it with the flare. And also I was like, oh, there she is. See, she made it. She's fine. It's her. She made it. Ian and the flare, he saved the day this time. So he's got the very end, he's got the thing and he's waving it the same way, but he managed to save the day where before he got knocked out. I cannot remember this lady's name. She's the new one. What is the pilot's character name? What is her name?
Kayla Watts.
Kayla. Kayla. She is running and screaming like Lex at one point. She's like doing the and running across that little bridge thing. So I thought that was a nod to Lex. They pulled the cage together like in the kitchen. Her and Owen were in the little cage thing and they pulled it together. Rexy walking past the circle, making the icon at the end. Even Brian saw that. We were like, oh, look, there she is. She made the icon. So we thought that was cool. Ian buttoning his top button.
That's a great moment.
Yeah. I thought this one was a little iffy. The Jeep teetering, like the fact that they're in the Jeep and it tumbles, you know, like with Tim.
And you could just say a car rolling over, but that happens in almost all these movies.
Yeah. So I thought that one had a question mark. The T-Rex saving the day. She always has to save the day. And this one, the leg, there was, I forget who it was. I just wrote down the leg getting pulled out of the way at the last second. Like when Lex is up in the stuff, they pull her leg up at the last second and the dinosaur.
Sorry, it's in the boat in Malta. Owen pulls him up and the dinosaur tries to bite his leg.
Yep. The two girls go and shut down all the power, which Ellie did before. They talk via the walkies in the control room, and I don't remember if they were on the same channel or not. I don't know, but she said, I'm on channel 5 or something, so that was the same. Ellie actually saying, I'm coming with you on the way to the control room. She says that in Jurassic Park. She goes, I'm coming with you. And then Claire's hairstyle in Italy is Ellie's hairstyle. It's like that I
did not notice.
I'm assuming that was my guess. I was like, oh, she's got the same hairstyle.
I need to go back and watch that.
Yeah, well, on your next view. So did I get all of the ones that you noticed or did I miss any?
You got more, I think, than I noticed, and some that I didn't even pick up on that are definitely nods. Like when Kayla's running and they shut that's obviously what they were doing. It's like, why would you design a door that goes like this? Like you'd
no
be
one
like
does.
That, right?
Yeah, and the way she just was yelling like, oh, I was like, oh, that's Lex's yell. I know that yell. That's what I was yelling.
There's nods to all the sequels in this movie.
Okay.
Like, all of them are in there. One of the big ones is for fans is there's a shot where Owen and Kayla are looking for Claire and they see the deer blood on a fern leaf.
Yeah.
And the camera lingers on it, and it's exactly the same as in The Lost World when Sarah rubs the baby T-Rex blood on the fern. You're right. It's like there's things like that where like the camera lingers on it. You're like, that's a nod to
Okay. Yeah. But I was just doing Jurassic Park because I rewatched Jurassic Park for the blah blah time, and then we saw this a couple of days later, and I was like, okay, it's fresh in my head. But even Brian's like, you don't need to rewatch it. Why are you rewatching it? You know it already. You could recite this whole thing. So that's cool. I got a lot of them.
So we've heard so much about it. We're very impressed by your work and these ideas you have for future projects. What do you actually think is next for you now that Dominion is open? Like 6 months from now, what will you either be in the middle of or what will you have completed?
That you can tell us.
Yes, right.
Hopefully we're still going to be working on what we're doing right now.
Okay.
That's what I'm hoping, but also evolving it into hopefully something else. But we'll have to wait and see. I've got a call at the end of the month all about this. So that's my answer. That's where I'll leave it.
Well, tell us, plug everything that you can plug. Tell us all the websites where people can find you. How can they follow your work? I've got Dino Tracker. I'll put that in the show notes. Tell me everything I can post for you.
So if you want to visit all the viral marketing websites we've done, you want masraniglobal.com, dinosaurprotectiongroup.com, and dinotracker.com. They all have like the Twitter handles sub-linked in them. Okay. I recently just rejoined Twitter the other day.
Oh, cool.
Well, yesterday. So if you want to find me on there, it's at Chaos Ewins. And then on YouTube, you can find me on my YouTube channel, TerrorDome 3000.
Where'd you get that name?
TerrorDome means you're trapped in the thing you love. So I talk about dinosaurs and Jurassic Park all the time. I can't seem to escape it. So and 3000 is a nod to Mystery Science Theater 3000, which is one of my favorite shows from the 90s. And I even mock up that kind of thing because it's all set on a spaceship.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Which is
well, most YouTube channels I watch, people are talking about movies in front of their DVD collections or action figures and stuff. And I was like, I want to set mine in space.
Yeah, which is why on Office outside, half of it is a normal office, and then if you turn around to the side, it
looks like a spaceship. Yeah.
Oh,
Background is like all mocked up stuff. It's just a bit of fun, and because I love those type of movies like the Alien films and stuff. So when people just watch me talk about it, visually you can see I'm a fan just by just looking at the background.
That's cool.
And the creativity's there because I never want to do things normally. But yeah, so I think that's about it. You can find links to everything else from those. So I have a question for you, Ashley.
Yes.
Did you say Apatosaurus is your favorite dinosaur? Did I mishear that?
No, the Brontosaurus or Brachiosaurus, whichever one. There she is. There's Gertrude. I put her in here. There she is in Paris.
Well, you so what did you think of Fallen Kingdom, where it's on the dock and right? Okay, I can tell by your face that I shouldn't bring that up. To tell her to go on Dino Tracker and go to Finland. Because you might be very happy. You might be very happy.
Jack, did you do this for me? Did you make her live? Because I talked about it in our last.
You might be very happy.
Oh, I'm
and
getting
blush. If you like long neck dinosaurs,
I do because I have a long neck.
But also one of the highlighted ones that you'll see is this Tyrannosaurus Rex. If you click on that one of the things we wanted to do with these dino videos, I just want to end on this point. Obviously, Universal were giving us free reign to make them. A lot of things we were like, well, let's do things that fans have not seen yet. So one of the ones I wanted to do was show a long neck dinosaur next to the T-Rex, because we've never had that before in the films. Like T-Rex, because it shows the scale of how big those long neck dinosaurs are. And I wanted to show a long neck dinosaur fighting back and winning.
Yes.
I think you would like that. So nice. Enjoy Dino Tracker because it's very thumbs up for the long necks on that website.
I love it. Ooh, so exciting.
Gave the long necks a run for their money because they've had a bit of a beating in the last few movies.
They really have.
Yeah, I was like, this time it's their time to shine. So yeah, enjoy it.
If she lived, I'm going to be so happy, Jack. You've made my day.
Wow, that was amazing. What did you think, Ashley?
I think that Jack is truly the best of the Jurassic Park fans. I'm serious. Like, I know I said it a couple times, but I am so happy for him. He is living the life that we would all dream of. This is just astonishing. And I sincerely hope that they read his script. I hope they love his idea. I hope he's able to make these films. I hope he is the next Colin Trevorrow, Steven Spielberg. I hope he's the person that helms this into the next generation.
I agree with you because, we said this, I know, in the interview, but not only is he so technically smart and so knowledgeable about the whole Jurassic Park world, but on top of that, I was so impressed by how he came across as just a caring person. I loved how family seemed to be a theme with him. He would pick up on some of those nuances within the films, but then he also there at the end when he mentioned to us as we were having kind of a conversation at the end about how he loved being able to stay in his home, be a dad, be a husband, and
that he didn't want the LA life.
He loved, right? So that it's the best of both worlds. And I thought, you know what, this is the perfect person to have his dreams come true.
Yes, it is.
So you know what, we know who we're going to cheers.
Well, yeah, Jack of Jurassic Park fame. Cheers to you.
Cheers.
This episode of Scandal Water was executive produced by Candy Thomas, that's me, and Ashley Raymer Brown.
That's me.
It was researched and written by Candy Thomas and edited by Ashley Raymer Brown.
All music was written, composed, performed, and mixed by Josh Martin. The artwork was designed by Matt C. Adams, while our website was developed by Joshua Reith. If you like what you hear and you want to help keep the Scandal Water brewing, please go to our website, scandalwaterpodcast.com. Just click on your podcatcher of choice, then hit follow to subscribe. And while you're there, you might as well leave us a 5-star rating and review. And don't forget, it's always more fun when you share your tea with others.
As a reminder, this podcast is purely for entertainment purposes. The thoughts and opinions of the host during each episode of Scandal Water are their own and do not reflect the opinions of any future guests, advertisers,
or clearly professional psychologists.
Thanks for listening.